Welcome to the Full-Time FBA Show. In each episode, it's our goal to help you turn part-time hours into a full-time income selling almost anything on Amazon. And now, your hosts of the show, Stephen and Rebecca Smotherman.
Hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. We are on episode number 233, and we're talking today about the best habits for Amazon FBA sellers to master. One of my favorite habits is talking every day to Stephen Smotherman, who is my co-host and my husband. See what I did there? I turned it around on you. How does it feel to have the introduction to the podcast be something cheesy?
I mean, I love it. This is awesome. This is so cool. I expect it every time from now on.
Okay.
Just kidding.
All right. Well, let's get started on this episode. Everyone has habits in their Amazon FBA business, and if you're not intentional about your Amazon FBA business habits, then you are probably going to have some pretty bad habits that are going to hurt your profitability. Now, about a year ago, on episode number 184 of the Full-Time FBA Show, we had a discussion about bad habits that Amazon sellers tend to have. So you can check that episode out later at fulltimefba.com/184. But today we're going to flip the script and focus not on those bad habits that we might have, but instead talk about the best habits for us to make a priority and to improve upon as we grow our Amazon businesses.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing this today is because of a quote that I read from James Clear, author of the book Atomic Habits, which is a phenomenal book. If you have not read it yet, I highly recommend it, and you can find it at fulltimefba.com/atomic habits. But the quote from James Clear that sparked this idea for this episode is this: the most important habit is choosing the right habits to work on. So let's get into what are the best habits for Amazon sellers to work on so that we can actually start making that full-time income selling on Amazon.
So the first habit that we want to make sure you're consistently improving upon is this. You need to have the habit of scheduling your sourcing. In other words, you need to plan ahead of time when and where you are going to find the inventory for you to buy and sell on Amazon. Obviously, you cannot grow an Amazon business without inventory to sell, and we can't consistently sell inventory without intentionally planning ahead of time when and where we're going to source. Are you going to do RA or OA or wholesale sourcing? Which stores or brands are you going to source at? When are you planning on doing that sourcing? If you're still just running your Amazon business by winging it for how you're going to source or when you're going to source, then that's a bad habit. So you need to start scheduling your sourcing and following through with your plans on a consistent basis. So that's the first habit that we want to make sure you're improving upon is actively and consistently scheduling your sourcing.
The next big habit to be sure you're on track to master is this: know your numbers. Marcus Lemonis says, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. Your numbers, that includes your expenses, your profits, your ROI, things like that. Knowing your numbers helps you have more confidence in what you're doing. Yes, you could be getting paid from Amazon via your disbursements, but how much of that is actual profit? Or you might have had a $1,000 sales day, but how much of that was profit? Yeah, you might have had X number of dollars in your business bank account, but how much of that is already being spent on future subscriptions? I mean, the questions go on. And the better you know these numbers, the better you're going to know your business. Currently, we use two resources to help us to know our numbers. The first is a CPA who understands online business. Part of what we pay them for is to help us to understand these numbers of ours. And the other resource we have is a tool called Inventory Lab. You've probably heard us talk about Inventory Lab many times on this podcast, but they have so many different reports that you can run to get a better understanding of the numbers of your business. I mean, Inventory Lab helps me know which sourcing methods give me the best results. Is it RA, OA? Is it wholesale? Inventory Lab lets me know which store, both online or in person, which stores are the most profitable use of my time at that time. Inventory Lab also keeps track of the success or failures of anyone who I hire to help me source if you put in the information correctly. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what Inventory Lab can help with. I mean, like year-end tax reports. I mean, there's so much I can keep going, but I'm not. If you're not an Inventory Lab user, Go check it out for a free month, fulltimefba.com/inventory lab. It really helps us know our numbers.
A third habit that you need to master, and this one is a doozy, is the habit of patient sourcing. Sourcing for profitable inventory takes time, and some of that time is going to be awesome and feel great and have amazing inventory as a result. But it seems like most of the time that you're sourcing can be pretty hard, can be pretty time consuming, and can lead to coming up with dead end after dead end. But the skill of being patient with sourcing ends up paying off in the long run. Remember, one of the most important aspects of running an Amazon business is finding profitable inventory to sell, and that requires patience. So how can you get more patient with your sourcing? You just keep going and you just do it again and again. And you just keep trying again and again to find stuff you can sell on Amazon for a profit. Keep pushing through your temptations to give up. The ones who win are the ones who stick with it and keep pressing on through all the dead ends. You are not the lazy seller. You are a seller who spends their time wisely. And even if it seems like it's taking you longer than it should, if you don't give up, you're going to find results in the end as long as you are working hard and working smart and not being impatient.
A fourth habit to stick with is to always be asking, who else can do this? And outsource as much as you can. Listen, outsourcing is so awesome. I mean, it's amazing how much time you can get back in your life, in your work, in your personal life by outsourcing, by paying someone a fair wage to do some of the easier aspects of your Amazon business so that you can focus on the harder, the most important aspects. I mean, we've outsourced so much, and it's one of our biggest keys to making that full-time income on Amazon by only spending part-time hours. Outsourcing. You can listen to a couple episodes to hear us talk more about outsourcing. Go to fulltimefba.com/10, the number 10, or fulltimefba.com/199 to get started hearing some of these outsourcing episodes. But this question, who else can do this, is a question that Rebecca and I ask each other, I would say about once a quarter or so. And we see if anything else has crept into our work schedules that we should probably not be doing, simply for the fact that we can pay someone else to do it. Think of it this way. Would you pay somebody $10 an hour to free up your time so that you're able to make $30 an hour during that same hour? Yes. Start to make the habit of asking yourself, who else can do this? And outsource as much as you can.
I'd like to add a fourth, like a 4.5 habit, or maybe it's the fifth habit. I don't know. That kind of goes along with the fourth one that you just mentioned. And then also the second one that you talked about with knowing your numbers. And that is to not pay for things that you're not using. If you know your numbers, you'll know if there are subscriptions that you have in your monthly payments or other things that you're paying for on a regular basis that you're not actually using. And that includes certain types of outsourcing that you might be doing that you're paying for it, but you're not using it. So make it a habit to check on those things on a regular basis, maybe once a quarter, a couple times a year. Look through your monthly statements and see, what am I paying for every month? Because, it's like, am I watching Netflix every month? Apply that to your business. Don't pay for Netflix if you're not watching it. Don't pay for something related to an app or whatever that you're paying for with your business that you're not using. I'm sure there are some more habits that we can talk about focusing on in the future. We'll probably do that in another episode. But one thing we don't want to do is overwhelm you with too much to do or too much to think about. But if you're binging and just going from episode to episode and you're not actually putting what you learn into action, then your Amazon business is not going to grow that much. So let's close out this episode with the last habit of put into action what you learn. That is possibly the most important habit that we're going to talk about today. Seriously, learning is fun. As you can tell, Stephen and I are big learning nerds. But it can sometimes be a distraction or even an excuse for not actually putting the lessons that you're learning into action. Just knowing all of this stuff about running an Amazon FBA business won't help you make money. Instead, actually putting these lessons that you're learning into action will make a real difference in the success of your Amazon business. So make it a priority to put a pause on learning, put a pause on binging Full-Time FBA Show. And if there are some things that you need to actually implement into your Amazon FBA business, go do that right now.
So going back to the James Clear quote from earlier in this episode, the most important habit is choosing the right habit to work on. So what's the habit you're going to work on? What is the one habit you are going to work on? Think about that. If you need help coming up with the most important habit to work on, then you know what? We want to invite you to our upcoming free Amazon Income Accelerator workshop. It's a 5-day online workshop where we're going to show you the most important things that it takes to realistically make a full-time income via Amazon. And during that, it might become very obvious what is the habit you need to be working on. You can sign up for this workshop for free, fulltimefba.com/workshop. And we're going to have a great time during that week and have a lot of fun learning and growing our Amazon businesses together.
Thank you, as always, for listening to the Full-Time FBA Show. This is episode number 233, and you can find the show notes for this episode at fulltimefba.com/233, where you will find the show notes and the links that were mentioned in this episode.
And next week on the show, we are going to be talking about some big profit leaks in your Amazon business. Some places where profit is just being leaked out and you are not getting to keep it. So we're going to talk about those and how to overcome them next week on the Full-Time FBA Show.
That's all for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. So head over to fulltimefba.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes and links from this episode. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter where you'll get several free downloads of our popular and helpful Amazon FBA resources. Now, take action on what you've learned today so you can find success at turning part-time hours into a full-time income with Amazon FBA.